Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah. Sunnahfollowers, protectors of the Sunnah.
Ina alhamdulillah wa salam Allah wa rasulullah. Welcome to another session of Sunnahfollowers Tawheed class. And for the Tawheed class, we've just begun discussing how important it is for us to work on developing our relationships with Allah. And this series is designed to give you the tools needed to develop your relationship with Allah. And let's start off with the quiz from yesterday's lecture. Let me put the quiz up on the screen and everyone can try to answer the questions. Is there only 3 questions here? Let's look at the first question. If a person were to ask you to define Allah, what would your response be? If someone were to ask you to define who or what Allah is, what would your response be? Who can answer that? If someone were to come to you and ask you to define who or what Allah is, how would you respond?
Assalamualaikum.
And speak a little louder. Walaikum salam.
I would define him by using one of his names. For example, the one that was given yesterday. He's our sustainer. He's all in all. He's everything. He's the one that provides and gives. He calls the rain to fall. I would describe him by his name.
Okay, Amina Fresno said she would define Allah by using his names and attributes. Good job. Anyone else with another answer? If someone, yeah, walaikum salam.
Assalamu alaikum. I would say that Allah is the creator of everything that is surrounding us, including ourselves. There's nothing like him. And like Amina, I would also throw in the attributes.
Okay, good job.
Like him, yes.
That's the same thing, by using his names and attributes. Anyone else with a different answer?
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu.
Yeah, so I'll start by telling the person, by saying, it's impossible to comprehend who Allah is, but he has given us a perfect answer. And by saying is one, like is one, it's not, is one, is indivisible, is absolute, is not, he begets not, nor is he begotten. So it's not born of anyone, so he's independent, self-sufficient, and then non-comparable to him, is unique. And again, just like Allah said, that's all we need to know about him.
Exactly. So basically, guys, the answer is, as you guys are giving, basically like Brother Haji said, it's impossible for us to describe him in a way in which we could comprehend. So the best way to do is to, let him know that, the best way to define him is through his names and his attributes. And that's when you would go over, like Amina said, the different names of Allah, how he's the sustainer, how he's the giver, he's the provider, he's the vengeful, he's a revenger, and this is what I want you guys to remember whenever you do come upon a non-Muslim or even a Muslim, and they ask you to describe Allah or define who or what he is, think of his names. Use his names and attributes, because that's what Allah has given us as a means of definition for ourselves. Okay, good job. Let's look at question number 2. We also spoke about how Allah is the creator, but when he made humans, he made us different from the other creations of his. What makes us humans different than the other creations of Allah? Anyone? What makes us humans different than the other creations of Allah?
there are two there are two things that distinguishes us from the other creations of Allah. Number one is the ability to choose freely between good and bad, good and evil. And the other one is the ability to intelligently weigh, make decisions, choices between two things. Thank you.
Good job. Exactly. There are two things that make us different from the other creations of Allah. Number one, the ability to choose freely. This is very important. Just as I was speaking about my cats today, they operate off of instinct. Allah has given animals instinct. They don't think, they don't have reasoning. Okay. And even though my cats were spaded or neutered when they were babies, it's still in their instinct. If a male cat smells those hormones that a female cat secretes, it'll make him do the cat calls. It'll make him want to go in heat to mate, even though my cats are not capable of doing anything, but it's their instinct. Even though they don't know what the feelings are that they're feeling, they don't know what's going on. In fact, they're running around here crazy. They don't know what's happening because they've never been around a female cat before. But evidently my neighbor has a female cat and that cat is in heat and they smell her and they're going crazy. That's their instinct. So animals don't have reasoning. They don't have logic. They don't have the ability to choose whether or not they want to go in heat. It's something, a certain smell or something can kick them into that. They have no choice of that. So that's what makes us different. We have two gifts that Allah has given us, and those things, the ability to choose freely and the ability to make our decisions for ourselves, this is what separates us from the rest of his creations. And that brings us to the last question. What are the two gifts from Allah and how do we abuse them? We talked about this yesterday, how we abuse the gifts from Allah. Good job, Antar. Good job, Layli. How do we abuse the gifts from Allah? What are the two gifts and how do we abuse them?
The two gifts are stated above.
Yeah, and how do we abuse them?
By rejecting Allah and hurting each other.
Ability to choose freely. Let me just rewrite that. And also the other gift, as we mentioned, was reasoning or decision making. Okay, so how do we abuse the ability to choose freely? And how do we abuse our reasoning or our decision making?
By hurting each other with it and rejecting Allah, not doing what he told us to do.
Anyone else with another answer?
And Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
We don't use our ability to weigh our pros and cons, when we're making choices.
Okay, one reason way we do not think of the pros and cons before choosing. That's one of the ways we abuse the gift. We abuse our ability to choose freely by not thinking of the pros and cons before choosing. Good job. I mean, your answer wasn't right. Good job, Sabrine. How else do we abuse these two gifts?
By not acknowledging that only Allah can create like the sun, the moon, that Allah can make it rain.
Okay, well, how does that, what does that have to do with choosing or decision making? Okay, the two gifts are from Allah, are we have the ability to choose for ourselves, and we have the ability to reason or decision make. How do we abuse these gifts? These are gifts to us. This is not Allah. Allah doesn't abuse anything. Come on, guys, y'all come with a whole bunch of answers for this. When you choose, when you make choices, Amina, how do you abuse that ability? What do we do when it comes to just choice making? That's abusing it. That's so simple. How do we abuse the ability to choose for ourselves? I mean, the Fresno. One of the ways we abuse it is by not thinking of the pros and cons before making a choice. And what else? By good job, by not making good choices. That's common sense. Good job, Antar. We abuse the ability to choose freely by choosing bad things. Common sense. You know it's that drinking is wrong, but you choose to do it. By choosing to do bad things. Whenever you choose to do something that you know is bad, that's abusing your ability to be able to choose. How else do we abuse it? Exactly, Sister Isra. By making choices. And instead of blaming ourselves, Amina, when the choice is bad, we blame others. How else do we abuse the ability to choose freely? Nobody can think of any other answer?
Excuse me. We have a mindset that we don't care. We just don't care.
So what do you mean by not caring about what you choose?
We don't care. We don't care about the choices that we made or the consequences.
Exactly. By not caring about the choices made, nor the consequences of them. This is a big problem. People just react. They don't think about, the consequences. Okay, how do we abuse the ability to reason? How do we abuse the ability to make decisions, guys? Exactly. Here's another answer, Laylee. By not using common sense. A lot of us don't use common sense like a lot of y'all ain't using in this class. The answers are so easy and you just make it hard for yourself. That's another way it's abused too, by making life hard for yourself. Making the choices hard when they're easy. That's another way. By making the choices hard when they are really easy. Okay, anyone else? Any other answers? The list goes on and on and on. We can come up with a million different ways in which we abuse the two gifts of reasoning and free choice. We end up choosing things that we know are bad and not caring about the choice or the consequences. We don't think before we choose. We don't think about the pros and the cons. We don't think about the consequences. We don't consider the circumstances surrounding the choice. We abuse this gift. And this is a gift. The animals don't have that gift. Like I say, my cats are running through here going crazy and don't know what the heck is wrong with them. I'm about to get them some catnip in a minute. And it's because it's instinct. Even though my cats don't know what it is, they can't do nothing about it, they smell a female. And it's got them acting, climbing the walls, literally. And they looking at me like, what's wrong with us? Okay. All right. Any questions about any of those answers? Mashallah, you guys did good. Any questions about any of those answers? Okay, let me put the PowerPoint up on the screen for today's lecture. The questions weren't long. I tried to make it easy for y'all today. Okay. It's a long day for me. Oh God. Hold up, I messed up. I messed up big time. Okay, let me show this, guys. Hold on, I'm trying to put y'all right. Screen share, I hope I'm screen sharing. Okay, today we're going to move on to the second lecture of this series, of the Muslim's relationship with Allah and his or herself. Today, we're going to speak about the correct way. We talked yesterday about how so many of us as human beings and Muslims, we abuse the gifts, the two gifts that Allah has given us, the gift of free will and the gift of reasoning. Well, today we're going to speak about how to utilize those gifts correctly. Because if we utilize those gifts the right way, it can actually determine whether our ending will be good or bad with Allah. Does everybody understand that? How, and whoever is a moderator, mute whoever that person is that doesn't have their mic off. There's somebody in the Zoom room that has a mic on. Can you mute them? Because I don't want to hear all that on the feedback. Okay, how we utilize our gifts of free will and how we utilize our reasoning will determine if your ending with the law will be good or bad. And this is what we're going to speak about today. First of all, first of all, has Allah given us a clear path to him? This is a question that many non-believers ask. And this is also a question that many troubled Muslims ask. Has Allah given us a clear path to him? Well, in essence, every Muslim would like to know if they can trust the authenticity of the Quran, because for us Muslims, we only have two sources to Allah. There's only two sources to Allah, the Quran and the authentic Sunnah. And every Muslim would like to know if they can trust the authenticity of both of these things. So it's perfectly natural to feel this way. After all, this is the outcome of our God-given gift of reasoning. The fact that we have this reasoning is going to cause us to question these things. However, our own minds are the key here. We have to understand that the Quran, according to Allah, is addressed to people who think. In order to understand the Quran, you have to be a person who is not deaf, a person who is not dumb, a person who is not mute. You have to be a person who really thinks. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. In this, meaning in this book, behold, there are messages indeed for those who think. And that's why the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam taught us as Muslims that when we read the Quran, we're not just supposed to sit there sing in Arabic. We're supposed to ponder the meaning of it, because in those words are messages for those who truly think. Allah will answer your questions with that book. That's why I tell a lot of Muslim women and men who are going through problems in their lives, you know, when their kids go to bed, pick up the Quran and open it up, and wherever your eyes fall, read, because that's a message from Allah to you. Also, Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning, thus clearly do we spell out these messages to people who use their reason. So again, if you're really a person that believes in Allah and you're looking for answers from Allah, when you pick up that Quran and read where your eyes fall, the first thing your eyes see, that's the message that Allah has to say to you. But you will only recognize it if you're a person who uses your reasoning. We have to understand that no one but Allah can make a human being believe in the truth of the Quran. And this is why Islam teaches us to not go around arguing and debating the religion with others. Also, you know, you have to read it. When you read the Quran, you have to read it with an open mind, applying your reasoning to whatever it is you're pondering. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. Nay, but this divine writing consists of messages self-evident in the hearts of those who have been given knowledge. And no one could knowingly reject our messages unless it be such as who would do wrong to himself. So here Allah is telling us that the Quran contains nothing but messages that are evident in the hearts of those who have true knowledge, true understanding. And no one could really reject what Allah is saying unless you're an evil person who harms yourself. Okay, so this is something very, very, very important that we Muslims really need to ponder. And this is something that we Muslims really need to think about as we're living our lives. A lot of people will come to me and say, dear Sister Layla, you know, whenever I read the Quran, it doesn't bring any benefit to me. And I read it all the time. Well, something's wrong with you. You must not be a person of knowledge. You must not be a person of sincerity, or something is wrong with you, or you're just an evil person. Because the Quran consists of nothing but messages from Allah to us. But again, the key is you have to be a person who truly does believe. Okay? So the guidance of the Quran is available, and it's available to anyone who goes in search of it. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation, the meaning, O mankind, we have now bestowed upon you from a high and divine writing containing all that you ought to bear in mind. Will you not then use your reasoning? So here again, Allah is telling us that he has now given us this book, the Quran, and it contains everything that we need to know. So why will we not use our reasoning and benefit from it? Also, one of the most interesting aspects of the Quran is the quantity of scientific statements in it, subjects that were not even dreamed about 1300 years ago. For example, you know, we talk about the Big Bang Theory. Allah mentions in the Quran, he says, he speaks about the large explosion marking the start of creation. Also, Allah speaks about the initial smoky, nebulous nature of the skies. He speaks about the expansion of the universe. He speaks about the presence of a huge amount of time before mankind appeared on earth. And he speaks about the existence of the sun and moon orbits. So again, how can a person not believe in the Quran? You know, when right there in those verses, you know, the guidance is there, and it proves that there must be a God, because, you know, 1300 years ago, these things were talked about. Subhanallah. In fact, Allah states that the amazing beauty and intricacy of the natural world around us, as well as our own complex biological makeup, will ultimately lead us to him as we grow in our understanding of him. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. In time, we shall make them fully understand our messages through what they perceive in the utmost horizons of the universe and within themselves, so that it will become clear to them this revelation is indeed the truth. Is it not enough that your sustainer is witness to everything? So here you can see Allah is explaining things over 1400 years ago that were not even spoken about back then. So thus our free will and our reasoning gives us the ability to believe and accept the reality of the existence of Allah, and that the Quran is indeed in truth. So why then? A lot of Muslims ask this question. You'd be surprised how many Muslims ask this question. So why then, if there is a God, why does he allow men and women to be hurt? Now, there are some people out there who use the presence of suffering and evil in this world as grounds to lose hope and to even reject Allah. But Allah even explains why he allows us to hurt. Allah tells us that whatever happens to us, good or bad, we brought it on ourselves. Allah doesn't wish any wrong upon us. Whatever good happens to you, comes from Allah, and whatever evil happens to you comes from Allah too, as a result of what you brought on yourself. However, Allah also guarantees that aside from our own evil actions and their effects, that he himself will put us through trials and tribulations here on earth just to see if we can be more patient and more better and more believing. So not every hardship is a punishment. A person may ask the reason, why does Allah allow children to die before their parents? Well, Allah does these things as a way of testing your faith, to see if you love that child maybe more than you did him. And if you pass the test of showing that you can accept Allah's qadr, you can accept Allah's decree and move on, then the fact that you handled your child's death with dignity will grant you a house, a palace in paradise. So, Allah does what he does for our betterment, not because he's evil and cruel. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. If bad happens to you, know that similar bad has happened to other people as well. For it is by turns that we apportion unto men either good things or bad things. And this to the end that Allah might mark out those who really believe in him and those who don't. So you experience the death of your child, you experience a divorce. You're not the only person that's experienced those things. This is Allah's way of differentiating who amongst us are true believers and who are not, who's going to accept his decree and move on, and who is not. Also, Allah says, do you think that you can enter paradise unless Allah recognizes who of you have striven in his cause and who has not, and who has been patient in hardship and who has not? Allah does not burden any human being with more than he is able to bear. And this is the good thing too, guys. Allah promises us that no matter what the trials in life are, he's never going to put something on us that we can't bear. If you lost a child, you lost a loved one, you can handle it. If you couldn't handle that loss, Allah wouldn't have given you that test. But he gave you that test because, number one, you can handle it. And number two, he wants that test to be your ticket to paradise. Okay, so this is something that we need to keep in mind as we're faced with our hardships and burdens in life. Also, an integral part of our being aware of our being aware of Allah is also to have hope and patience whenever we're faced with hard times. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. Prophet Abraham said, and who other than those who have utterly lost their way could ever abandon the hope of Allah's grace? We have to have hope, guys. And we talked about how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, unless you are balanced in your fear, love, and hope of Allah, you can never be a believer. When we're faced with bad things in life, we're not supposed to lose hope, because losing hope will cause you to reject Allah. You have to understand that your trials will do nothing but make you stronger, because the trials that you are faced in life with, you can handle them anyway. Okay? So never lose hope, even when you're going through the trials of life. Listen to what Allah says in the interpretation of the meaning. As for those who attain to faith and do good deeds, the gardens of paradise will be there to welcome them, and there shall they live, and never will they be removed from it. And on the other hand, those who rebel against Allah and his prophet and transgressed his boundaries, these are the people whom he will commit unto the hellfire. So again, guys, your trials in life, you can handle them. Just bear them with dignity, bear them with patience, and move on. Those trials in life are your tickets to paradise. Does everybody understand that? So thus, guys, this world that we live in today, it is nothing but a test for us. It's a test to see if we truly do believe in Allah, if we're going to put our love for him over everyone and everything else here. Allah has given us the gifts that we need to get through the trials of life. He's given us our free will. He's given us our reasoning. Now, how we utilize them will determine whether we have a good ending or a bad ending. But again, when we do have to face Allah, we can't blame it on Shaitan or blame it on anyone else, because you had the gift of free will. You had the gift of reasoning. You should have utilized them the correct way. Because had you utilized them the correct way, you'd have passed your test with flying colors, and you will be standing before Allah being told to enter into paradise. So let's not fail our tests, guys, in life. Use your logic. Use your reasoning. Understand that no matter what you're facing, you can handle it. The stronger your faith, the greater the test. You can handle it. So bear it with dignity and move on. Okay, we're going to stop right here for today. If you guys have any questions or comments, inshallah, you can type them on the screen. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta